You've been told the Tower of London was built to protect the kingdom. But what if it was never meant to protect anyone at all? Not the people, not the crown, not even the kings who lived inside it. From the moment its foundations were laid in 1078 by William the Conqueror, the tower wasn't a gift. It was a threat. It rose not for the people, but against them. Its brutal white stone shimmered with dominance, not sanctuary. And for nearly 1,000 years, that illusion held. We were told it was a castle, a crown jewel of England's history. But beneath the surface lies a structure designed to silence, to watch, to remind every subject of their place. This is a story about power, not its glory, but its cruelty. How it's preserved, how it punishes, and what it hides when the walls grow quiet. The dark secrets of the Tower of London are not just tales of the past. They're reflections of how terror can be dressed in tradition, and how even royalty can disappear without a trace. No king understood this better than Henry VIII. He didn't just use the tower, he turned it into an instrument of personal vengeance. And what he did within its walls would change England forever. We'll come back to that. Tonight, we will uncover the ghosts of authority, the lies carved into legend, and the wounds that never healed. Let us begin. The stone that watched them fall. According to historian Alice Loxton, the tower was always less a castle and more a psychological weapon. Built immediately after the Norman conquest, it stood as a constant reminder of foreign control. From its earliest days, it housed not only kings, but hostages, traitors, and the condemned. Its architecture was as much about intimidation as it was about defense. And it worked. Visitors today marvel at its grandeur, unaware that beneath their feet lie the remains of those silenced. They take smiling photos outside a place once known for screams. The Tower of London torture chambers were never part of the tour guide script. Neither were the cries of those vanished without trial. But perhaps the greatest irony, that this monument to fear is now one of the most haunted places UK visitors flock to. And yet, the question lingers. Is the Tower of London still haunted? Or is it simply remembering? In the next chapter, we turn to one of the Tower's most famous victims, a queen whose love became her sentence, whose final breath never really faded. Anne Boleyn's final breath. She arrived by boat, cloaked in silence, not as a prisoner, at least not officially. She was still Queen of England, still married to Henry VIII, still alive. But the Anne Boleyn Tower of London story doesn't end with ceremony. It ends with a sword, a prayer, and a whisper that still echoes through the stone. Anne Boleyn had once been untouchable. Fierce, intelligent, and politically astute, she didn't just captivate a king, she fractured an entire religion. England broke from the Catholic Church for her. Monasteries were dissolved. Blood spilled across the countryside. All for a promise of heirs. But when she failed to deliver a son, the queen who had rewritten history became its next victim. Anne was brought to the Tower under charges of treason, adultery, and witchcraft. The evidence was thin, fabricated, most historians now agree, but the machinery of her downfall had already been set in motion. According to scholar Eric Ives, the real motive was political. Anne had too many enemies and no male child to protect her. Her rise had been extraordinary. Her fall would be theatrical. On the 19th of May of 1536, she was led to Tower Green, where a French swordsman waited. Not an axe, not a block. A clean death, they said. Quick, dignified, but dignity dies slowly. Witnesses claimed her lips moved for several seconds after the blow, praying or cursing. No one knows. The site where she fell remains cold to this day. Some Yeoman Warders refuse to pass it at night. Tourists speak of a woman in white gliding through the chapel ruins, her face serene, her arms empty, or worse, holding something. Others hear nothing at all, just the sudden drop in temperature, the weight in their chest. Do these stories sound familiar? They should. They're the backbone of creepy Tower of London stories, passed down not to entertain, but to warn. Have you heard a version of this story before? Share it below. But Anne isn't the only one said to linger. There are others, smaller, quieter, forgotten even in death. In the next chapter, we descend deeper into the locked chambers and missing pages of England's most chilling royal mystery. Were the princes in the tower murdered, or were they hidden for a reason? If this journey into the tower has moved you, even unsettled you, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who still believes history is only found in textbooks. These stories are often buried, sanitized, or forgotten entirely. But when we remember them together, we give voice to those who were silenced. It helps this channel keep digging where others won't, and brings light to the places still wrapped in shadow. Now, let's continue. The children who never left. 2 boys, 1 crown, 0 graves. In the summer of 1483, Edward V, just 12 years old, and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, were brought to the Tower of London for protection. Their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, assured the public they would be safe until Edward's coronation. But that coronation never came. Instead, their titles were stripped, their legitimacy was questioned, and then they vanished. No trial, no funeral, no body. The story of the princes in the tower is one of the most disturbing in royal history, and one of the most enduring. According to primary sources from the period, the boys were last seen playing in the gardens of the tower. Weeks later, only servants passed by their chamber. Then not even that. Chroniclers, like Thomas More, writing only a generation later, claimed the boys were smothered in their sleep, buried under a staircase by order of their uncle, who would soon take the throne as Richard III. But no one ever proved it. In 1674, during construction at the tower, workers discovered a small box buried beneath a stairwell. Inside were 2 tiny skeletons. They were reburied in Westminster Abbey, but not formally identified. Modern historians remain divided. Were they the princes? Or just another pair of forgotten children claimed by the tower? Because this isn't just a whodunit. It's a question of what a crown is worth, and how many lives it costs to wear one. The disappearance of the princes gave the tower its most haunting legend, and perhaps its most innocent ghosts. Some guards still report hearing whispers in the White Tower. Others swear they've seen 2 pale figures near the bloody tower gate, holding hands, waiting. And if the tower is a mausoleum of power, then this is its gravest silence. But what if their deaths weren't the end? What if the fear that claimed them became the blueprint for controlling generations to come? In the next chapter, we descend into a far darker level, where silence was enforced not by kings, but by instruments of pain, the kind no child should ever hear, the kind no adult would ever forget. The devices that broke men open. It wasn't just death they feared inside the Tower of London. It was what came before. The stones beneath the White Tower have been witness to something far older than ghosts, pain as policy. Here, punishment was not only a sentence, it was a message, a performance, a tool. Inside the tower's lower chambers, behind thick doors and torchlit corridors, the machinery of control unfolded in iron and wood. Among the most infamous was the rack, a frame designed to slowly pull the body apart, joint by joint. Muscles tore, tendons snapped, confessions came soaked in agony. Not truth, just compliance. Then came the scavenger's daughter, a cruel inversion of the rack. Instead of stretching, it crushed. Victims were folded forward, knees to chest, until blood poured from their nose, ears and eyes. According to records from 1597, Jesuit priest Nicholas Owen was subjected to the device, his spine shattered. He died before he could even speak. But torture in the tower wasn't just about extracting secrets, it was about performing dominance. As scholars of Tudor policy point out, the use of these devices was deliberately rare, precisely because their rarity made them legendary. The mere possibility of the rack was often more effective than its use. And it worked. Fear spread faster than facts. Within a few generations, the tower had become synonymous with punishment so severe its silence screamed. That's why Tower of London torture remains a central thread in the site's mythology, and a chilling reflection of how the Crown kept its enemies quiet, not just through steel, but through story. Today, the torture chamber is part of the tour, sanitized, lit up for photos. Visitors pass the replica rack with nervous jokes. But beneath the glass, the original walls remain, cold, damp, and far too familiar. So why is it that some guests claim to feel a tightening in their joints? As if the tower remembers what it once did to bodies that betrayed it. And what if that memory was never truly buried? Because in the next chapter, we confront something even darker. A curse tied not to the flesh, but to the very foundation of the British monarchy. A warning sealed in feathers and bone. And it's still alive. The curse that keeps breathing. They say if the ravens ever leave the Tower of London, the kingdom will fall. At first, it sounds like myth, just another superstition tucked between the ghost stories and beefeater tours. But this particular legend has never been taken lightly, not by kings, not by soldiers, and certainly not by those tasked with keeping the birds alive. Today, at least 6 ravens are kept at the tower at all times, their wings clipped, their diet carefully managed, their names, Erin, Jubilee, Branwen, are recorded, tracked, protected, because if they fly away, Britain is said to collapse. The origin of the legend is murky. Some trace it back to the time of Charles II, who was warned by astronomer John Flamsteed that removing the ravens from the tower could bring ruin. Charles, fearing cosmic retribution more than superstition, ordered that the birds remain, no matter what. Historians suggest this may have been more than royal paranoia. In periods of upheaval, especially during the Civil War and Restoration, the Tower of London stood as both fortress and prison. The ravens, perched atop its ancient battlements, became something more. Omens of continuity in a nation always on the brink. But that continuity comes at a cost. Primary sources from the 18th century record moments where the ravens dwindled, coinciding with fires, royal deaths, and foreign wars. In 1944, during the Blitz, only one raven remained. The tower was bombed, London burned, and the nation shuddered. That surviving raven, Grip, is still honored in tower lore. Today, tourists laugh at the birds, take selfies, toss scraps, but the Tower of London stories tied to the ravens are not light-hearted. Warders speak quietly about changes in their behavior before major events. In 2020, the raven Merlina vanished, without a trace. Some say she simply flew away. Others say the tower took her back. So, is this just symbolic tradition? Or something deeper, something older? Because if the tower's curse is real, then it's not just ghosts that guard the crown, it's prophecy. And perhaps the most terrifying part is this: the tower may not be protecting Britain anymore. It may be holding it hostage. And in the final chapter, we confront that hostage history, where tourism masks terror, and the past isn't just preserved, it's still in motion. Tourism on blood. Every year, over 3 million people pass through the gates of the Tower of London. Families take photos, children giggle at the armor displays. Guides tell tales in polished tones. But beneath the cobblestones, the ground is soft with centuries of silence. Because this isn't just a landmark, it's a graveyard with a gift shop. The tower has been branded as history's stage, an educational experience, a heritage treasure. But what happens when you build an empire on fear, then sell tickets to walk its ruins? The ghost of Anne Boleyn, the princes in the Tower of London torture chambers. These aren't campfire stories. They're scars. Wounds left open, made palatable for public consumption. Sanitized, marketed, stripped of their terror. A creepy Tower of London story becomes a souvenir. Yet the ghosts haven't agreed to this performance. Scholars analyzing post-colonial heritage warn of this exact distortion when symbols of domination are reframed as quaint or mystical. Their real history becomes untouchable. The tower becomes less about power and pain and more about props. But if you look closely, the cracks are still there. The chill in the Chapel Royal, where Anne Boleyn took her final prayer. The echo in the bloody tower corridor, where guards claim they've heard children crying. The uneasy stillness around the Traitor's Gate, where prisoners once watched the sky for the last time. These aren't just legends. They're dark secrets of the Tower of London, buried beneath centuries of storytelling. And they still breathe. If this story makes you look differently at your next museum tour, maybe share it with someone else who needs to see beyond the plaque. Because here's the final question. Is the Tower of London still haunted, or are we the ones repeating its curse by walking, watching, and forgetting? Some say history is past, but the tower doesn't agree. If the shadows of the tower unsettled you, then you'll want to see where its darkest chapter began, with the man who turned love into law and betrayal into policy. Our video on Henry VIII dives into the mind of a king who didn't just reshape religion, he redefined cruelty from the throne. 6 wives, countless executions, and a legacy that still poisons the crown. Watch it next to see how Anne Boleyn's fall was only the beginning. It's on screen now. Watch it. Please like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. It matters more than you think.